podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm joined here with Maharaja of my heart, Chris Prunty, as well as
Aw,
continued special guest, Daniel Quinn. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
good, good.
Exhausted.
Pandemic good.
Yeah, yeah. Pandemic good, I think, is a pretty good way to kind of frame everything. Speaking of, we really do hope you're doing well with all the pandemic stuff and everything going on. Which brings us today's episode, part 3, our final part of our dip into the land of 1,000 mods, our cyberpunk world. In today's episode, we're going to be going around and introducing our own ways of how we would approach the land of 1,000 mods. And Daniel, why don't you go ahead and start us off today?
What I was thinking of is different types of stories you might be able to tell in this sort of environment. So one fun one I thought, which could be, you played as either a game, you could set it up as an RPG game, you could do a short story, you could potentially make like a virtual game out of it as well. Is a heist. So your typical heist gets.
Yeah, that's the classic cyberpunk trope, of course.
Exactly. So you get a bunch of people together, and since we've already established factions, you could have a character from each of the factions, and we know that they all hate each other, or at least are opposed to each other in some way. So you'd need a common reason for them to come together, and maybe they have a common enemy, and they're stealing from that common enemy, or maybe they're in fact all working against each other and trying to heist the same object. So in a heist format, as long as you have that MacGuffin, which could be the thing they're stealing, you can get all these people together, and then whether you want to actually have them work together in the end or work against each other, it doesn't matter as long as there's that conflict. So what would they be stealing? There's a whole number of things you could choose. You could choose a person. I thought it might be interesting to maybe they have to heist something that's ridiculous. So I was thinking of the Longmaker, the really big 3D printers. So they have to figure out, how are we going to get this giant object out of this rich guy's fortress in the middle of the ocean? That kind of a heist. That's the basic premise. Just get some characters together, and it all hinges really on how interesting the characters are. So you start with the faction, then you build on that and figure out what qualities do they have because of where they came from.
I've always been a big fan of heist movies. I've often tried to run heists to varying degrees of success. And I think it really does come down to like interpersonal conflict. I think that the conflict between characters is really what makes it interesting, and different people's motivations and reasoning behind what they're doing and why they're doing. I mean, Ocean's 11 is, say what you will about the sequels, but the original remake was actually quite good. And Neuromancer is again another classic heist, kind of book. And I think I'm right there with you. And let's talk a little bit more about what we want to steal, because I think that really separates a Land of 1,000 mods with other heist movies. I think the Longmaker is a good idea, but I also think that some kind of DRM related
like
item
IP.
would, some kind of an IP, or maybe it's like some kind of
person.
AI. I wasn't even thinking a person. I was thinking an AI. Thinking of.
I mean, what would be great is if when they think they're trying to heist one thing, but when they get to it, they're like, "Holy crap, it's something else!" And then it adds complications. That's another twist you can throw in.
Oh, kind of like how in Firefly they open up the case and they thought that they had contraband, but it was a person.
Yes, that's or in our classic The Mandalorian, his heist, it actually ends up not being the person he thinks.
Oh yeah, with the child,
exactly.
Not Baby Yoda, but
Baby Yoda.
But no, I agree. Like it all hinges on that MacGuffin, like too, and it's like it's an opportunity to do something really weird because of the setting. Like I would really love AI because you've got maybe this black box, and it could potentially become a character now that's part of their crew that's not wanting to be stolen, especially if it's an AI. Maybe it controls parts of the fortress that they're stealing it from.
Let's go ahead and try and do this in a reverse way. Like, has there ever been like a reverse heist movie before, where or like a reversed heist story where we don't see the where we're not rooting for the heroes being the ones infiltrating, but the ones
Yeah.
being infiltrated. Is that something that's ever been done before? Because if not, like, I know that there's been siege movies which are very different, but I'm talking about like counter espionage in a way, like
Mhm.
counter heist movies. Or is that like something that just doesn't break down because of the tropes of the genre?
I think it could totally work. Then that just means that the heisting characters, obviously still have to be interesting, but in a sense they're cast as the villains. So then it's almost like the reverse heist would be like Home Alone, right? So the kid is at home preventing them from stealing from the house, so he's setting all these traps. So then in this setting, what would be an interesting location to be the base that they're stealing from, essentially?
Now, that's getting really close to siege, but do you mean also where you might want to put an item for you to get it later when you go there, kind of thing? So, say you hide a weapon underneath a
Mhm.
table. This way, when you get checked before you go in, you don't have any weapons, and then
Oh, I
suddenly you
see what
reach
you
under the
mean.
table, pull out a pistol, and you're
So
armed.
kind of set the table for the heist in advance, and then when you get in there, all the things you need are already in place.
Correct.
I don't
Hmm.
know if that's a reverse heist so much as like a well planned heist, you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not stealing something,
Oh, true.
it's
Yeah.
more of an
Okay.
assassination then.
All right. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and make a little heist scenario then.
Yeah.
Actually, I had so for what I was going to bring, I was going to break down my types of suggestions into creating a genre within the world, right? Because
Mhm.
where we are now, we're sitting at it and looking at it as the Land of a Thousand Mods is a cyberpunk world, right? But realistically, if you were to live in that same world, you wouldn't know that it's cyberpunk. This is just the world
Yeah.
that you know. And
Status quo.
thus, right. And thus you can tell any type of story within it. And, this is where the kind of blending of genres comes in. And for mine, one of the genres that I is near and dear to my heart and I did want to talk about was horror. Because
Mhm.
I mean, in a world where the meat market exists,
Oh
I
man.
wanted to do something that is absolutely horrifying. And for me, what I was interested in doing is something along the lines of, well, why wouldn't you just play a horror game where you're people who are trying to avoid the meat market men?
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah. And of course, what's most horrifying is that that's basically a slasher villain, right? Like
Hmm.
there is an unstoppable to you because you're essentially like a poor person with unmodded parts that have yet to be sold. And
Hmm.
there's something, and not only that, but one, by definition, you have something that is extraordinary about you. So there's something unique about the character already.
Hmm.
Two, it's extra unique in the world because it's a matter of, well, this person has an unmodded part that's actually of high quality. That's two things that separates you from the others. And thus you already have like some kind of a main character, or at least maybe a slew of characters. And of course, the meat market men are so fucking scary. They're terrifying. They're trained to hunt you down. And I have two options with this, and I have a
Hmm.
third because you mentioned a heist, right? One is you can either play the role of the people who are trying to avoid the meat market people. So you're like dodging and running through the streets as you're being stalked and hunted down. You could
Yes.
do it, you could play it that way. Number two, you could also play it as you've all been gathered because you've all been captured by the meat market. So it's
Oh, okay.
essentially, think of it like the opening of Skyrim where you're all in a wagon in the
While
back
you're
and you're
awake.
off. Yeah, exactly. Where you're on your way to what is certain death or worse at the hands of the
And you
meat
gotta break
market.
out.
Right. And then not only that, if you're doing this from an RPG perspective, think about the fact that that's how you gather the party. You all
Right.
have something remarkable about yourself, and now it's a breakout, right?
Oh,
Like
that's a really
you're
cool premise too to start with. Yeah, yeah.
right. And so it's like that's how you get the crew together is because you
Hmm.
all have valuable bionic parts, or not bionic, but meat parts.
Yeah.
And then that's how it starts. And then the third option that you actually inspired within me, Daniel, is imagine a heist where you're trying to break people out of the meat market.
Oh, yeah, I like
Ooh.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you get heist mixed with horror, as like maybe you don't necessarily
Uh-huh.
know what the meat market's all about, but as you get deeper and deeper into its bleeding black heart,
Oh,
you
you
start
realize
to see
horrible things.
exactly, exactly,
Oh.
exactly. Yeah.
I,
So
I
that's
love that because the settings also dictate how that would work. Like for the last one you talked about, you're going into the heart of the beast, right? So there's a lot of unknowns, and it's definitely like the dark corridor kind of horror setup. And the market, when the one on the cart, for example, like they could be on their way in between two locations. That's like the apocalyptic space. So now you got to like brave that plus the people hunting you. And then the first one, it could be like your own back, hometown, and you're like running through like back alleys and stuff to get away from them.
right. And that's kind of what I wanted to go with because like again, horror is so expansive and you can tell so many different types of stories with it that's what I wanted to go. And I mean, I can just focus on the meat market, but realistically I could go, all sorts of different types of horror with it. But
Well, there's so
anyway,
much body horror too in that concept because that's like the invasion of the body through technology is like essential to cyberpunk, so that like that cuts to the core.
what's funny is that I wouldn't necessarily even argue that it's an invasion. It's more the amalgamation of humanity and technology, right? More than anything
Mhm.
else. That's kind of what you'd have to take a look at. All
Yep.
right, I feel like that's a really fun blending of genres. Chris, how does your what is the way that you're planning on integrating into this?
I wanted to go with the way that a lot of RPG sessions start and use kind of the tropes, but spin it in a cyberpunk way. And also not do something that is entirely like overdone. So the amnesia kind of start where no one remembers anything of what happened.
Mhm.
Yep.
My idea was it that when the AI put itself into some host, it kind of erased any memories or anything. And so people woke up, and the person that you are playing as unknowingly is the AI itself.
Oh, I like that.
And the reason that you have some extraordinary abilities or like really good skills and just react faster than everyone is because you are an AI, but you don't know it. And to add another layer of it, since the AI knew that it couldn't fit its entire personality into one person, you're split up into the group.
Oh, that's great. That I was wondering if you're gonna take it to that level because like that's totally alien too in terms of how AI can work. That's really
hmm
cool.
Yeah, that's a
And
really so you're essentially part of a collective or like a hive mind type thing.
correct, but you don't know it. And I wanted everyone to have that kind of sense that they know each other. And that is based on the fact that they were once one being. But to also add it, the AI did do one other thing to make it that its goals that it wanted in the world might still be accomplished.
Hmm.
And I wanted kind of the VR experience of where the enemies of the AI appear as like maybe monstrous or clearly the enemy. Even if they're just like the police or the men in black or whatever, they outwardly look like something that it's just like, oh my god, these things are hunting us. Why does no one else see this?
It's such a
So it's
fantastic mystery setup too.
yeah, I really do love the idea that the AI is controlling perception
Hmm.
because I think that when you talk about shared consciousness and a collective consciousness, that idea of what is the unifier has to be addressed, right? And the
hmm
idea that the AI is controlling it is really fascinating. But does the AI's personality kind of peak out in different ways through each person? Like, how would that work exactly?
So that's what I see. Like each thing that the person is good at is kind of like a subroutine of the AI or something that the AI personally tailored this person for, or at least put those memories, that knowledge into that person.
I love
So
that
you're
as a
Voltron.
Yes, yes,
right.
It's AI Voltron, but like,
exactly.
I've never seen this, but oh god, I've never seen this, but it's somewhat similar to Sense Eight, I would imagine.
Oh,
Hmm,
I
you want to
tried
see
watching
that?
him. It's so bad.
Oh, bad
Yeah,
good?
Bad,
uh,
bad.
I have friends who really enjoyed it, and also Daniel, you have questionable taste.
I
Like
mean,
Oh,
it
you're
was by the
right.
Wachowskis. The Wachowskis have not made anything good since The Matrix 1.
that's
I
accurate. That's 100% accurate, actually.
you know, that's true. I mean, if I would have taken Daniel's advice, I probably would have never seen like Pacific Rim.
Which year would be better for? But I digress.
Wow, wow.
Oh, but
I love the concept though that you have an automatic party and that party is intimately connected even though they don't know it because that's a
But
great way to play it.
there's also one other thing that I was thinking of, that say you don't want to do the amnesia thing because it's been done before, you could
Uh-huh.
just have the perception aspect where
Oh
people are
yeah.
seeing things and they're coming together as like a conspiracy theory group. And they're like, yeah, I see these things too. I see the lizards on TV. You see them
Oh my
too, man?
god. I could see that as like an AA group, but
Oh,
it's
that's
like
Hmm.
great.
yeah. Like a
Yeah,
fight
I mean,
club but for the AIs.
I actually think I think I certainly like that more, is that you're drawn together and you think it's a natural thing, but realistically the AI has been drawing you together algorithmically, like kind of
Oh man.
subconsciously the entire time. Like you think you're completely in control, and yet you look around you and you're like, "Oh, I've been controlled this entire time."
Mhm.
Yeah, the
Like that.
reveal would be the big part for everyone when they're like, oh my God, we're not, there's no such thing as free will.
Yep. Oh
Well, when
man.
you're part of the
Step in
AI,
and
I would
become one
imagine, yeah.
again, or do we,
Yeah, is
stay?
yeah, is this childhood's end, where at the end, humanity ascends and becomes part of the universe, or is it like, oh, or is it like, hey, let's join the flesh pile, like that type of thing?
Well, it's an identity question, which I think is what's cool. Like, are you like, is your identity your own, or is it the consequence of like the things that have, happened to you? And what is your identity determined by like how you were created, which is literally the case for the AI people. Like so the duelist faction, I imagine would be intimately related to this, right? Like, wouldn't they want to be hunting these people because they're constructs?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing this more as like a conspiracy thriller now.
Hmm.
Something along the lines of there's a political mystery that they have to solve, and it's going to take them to a certain place. And then at the end, it's revealed that they've never had any control at all. And,
Hmm.
they've been kind of breadcrumbed this entire way by the AI. And, like, I think you could even play around, because I'm not seeing this necessarily as like an RPG session. I'm definitely seeing this more of a story,
Mm.
and I'm seeing it along the lines of something like, hey, it's like a conspiracy theory, and again, I'm seeing this more of a as a novel or a story, because
Yeah.
I can see like you have a strong sense, because in the way I'm structuring it, right, is that you're doing POV chapters each time,
Mm.
and then in one of the POV, like you get a strong sense of one of the characters, and then at some point in the story, that character has to make a choice, and it is completely out of character
Hmm.
for who they are, and that is like the hint to the reader that, oh, what's going on here, like that's so out of character for them. And then at the end, it's revealed, this whole thing is revealed, and then you realize like, oh, it wasn't out of character, they just never had control in the first place, that type of thing.
Oh my God.
I mean, and structured as a novel, as you're saying, or like a long form work, like you also have that fourth perspective of the reader. So if we have all the points of view they're reading, the reader is picking up on the things that stitch them together. So the reader might start to come to the conclusion just before the reveal that, oh wow, these people are all the same person, or they're all dictated by the same like identity, which would be really neat.
Yeah, and that's the ideal, isn't it? Like you want to
Hmm.
always make sure that your reader is just one step
One step
behind.
behind you, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. And because and what I would want to avoid in general is I don't want them to be the same person,
Right.
because I feel like that plays into that kind of that trope that I'm not a big fan of, which is the psychological, like dissociative disorder type thing.
Oh, right, right. Yeah,
That's
what I
that's
mean
the
by
one
that
that
is
I
like they started as the same person because they're the same AI, but clearly they've developed their own identities because they got split.
yeah. Yes. That's what I'm more interested in
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to deal with the chemicals inside the human body,
Cool.
the aches, the pains, the stimuli that they see every day.
Pooping.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Irritable bowel syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Actually, what I think would be kind of fun, right, is that you could add in the extra character that is the AI itself describing biological functions, and like it's
Cool.
in a completely alien way, right? In a completely detached way. I think that'd be kind of a fun way to do it. And then maybe as you're sprinkling this throughout the novel, people are like, "Why the fuck
Like, what
are
is
these
this?
chapters?" And yeah,
I
like
know.
it's like, what is up with this AI?
I
It's
love
made
those
out of
kind of
meat.
chapters. Yeah, when in the
No,
book when you have the weird ones where you're like, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm weirdly interested.
yeah, yeah. Or it's like
You've heard that
log.
story, right?
Yeah.
Which
Wait,
The
which one?
short story, it's just like they move their meat and then they
Oh yeah, yeah.
vocalize
yeah, we've
using the
talked about this.
meat.
Yeah, we've
Hmm.
talked about this in the
What is that
podcast.
short story called? I always forget.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I love that one though.
Alone
Yeah.
in the Universe or something.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel, what's the other one that you want to talk about? By the way,
I wanted to go back to my doom dwarves that I came up with,
your
and give them
doomed
some
worms.
my
What?
doom dwarfs, my doom burgers, the Norse word for dwarf, and then doom in front of
Was I
it.
here for that episode? Did you guys record an
Yes,
episode without me?
I slipped it
Or
right
did I
past
just like,
you.
or did I just hear dwarves and I just like
You just
zoned
blanked
out
out.
entirely?
You were like,
These are
hey, I
the
have to go to the bathroom real quick, and we just kept going.
yeah,
I
hard into
I
Dwarfville.
I'm not really
I
sure how it
edit
got
the
past editing.
podcast. How did you get it around me?
You once
So
again had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
these are the guys who live under the ground in the geothermal like powered
Yes.
society.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
remember this.
they're like the
I
eco people.
yeah. I do not think of them as dwarves at all. So that's fine.
So I'm thinking like there's also so I remember running across this this it's really just an article in the real world of these things called doomsday seed vaults. And they're I think in Svalbard, like they're way off. I don't know if I pronounced it properly, but they're way off, far away from us. These vaults where they keep lots of different types of seeds in the event of a doomsday that could happen, so that we would be able to recover, you know, that kind of vegetation if it doesn't grow in the world anymore. So in this future, I'm sure we can assume those vaults somewhere exist. So I'm thinking in this kind of story, we'd have sort of like a journey story where you have a band of characters, possibly from the Doomverger group, who have to brave the AI plotted wilds in order to find the seed vault and recover some of these seeds so they can continue to grow, or try to bring back vegetation to the world or to their society under the ground. So they've got to go through this kind of really dangerous long journey, and break their way into that vault and recover them. So it gives you an opportunity for playing with maybe the religious undertones of their apocalypse cult. And you have kind of like the road kind of scary journey where you've got to face all kinds of unknowns in the wilds. And the other thing is that the MacGuffin thereafter is like unprintable and really valuable, even though it's literally just seeds.
Because it's biological. You can't
Right.
you can't print it because it's a biological thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And it's
Right.
its own kind of IP too, in a sense.
Well, I mean, in a Monsanto type of way, right? Like
Exactly.
It's a biological.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do they know that it's a seed vault, or is it one of those things where just like this is where the promised land is? They
It could
have
totally be
plants of
that way.
every kind.
I like that because they probably view it as a religious or divine location, so they may not know exactly what's in it, but just that it'll restore fertility to their society.
I'm getting like a Mad Max vibe type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Where, yeah,
In
where
the
it's
far,
like
far away, in the long, long ago.
No,
They killed the
actually,
world.
I'm thinking more of like, oh, we've got to get the guzzling out of that tanker.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's like, and they're going to get to this seed vault, and maybe at this point, do they even know how to cultivate anything?
They may
It's
not.
kind
I
of
mean,
like,
probably the
right?
vault has instructions that they're looking at these corrupted like tracts they have, because they're the ones collecting information about the pre-apocalypse world.
Oh, or hold on, sorry, or they get to this because I'm thinking of like bittersweet journey type thing,
Okay.
where this pilgrim gives everything that he has, and he
Mhm.
gets to the vault and opens it, and as soon as the air hits these seeds, the air is poison to them, and it's
Oh
like
man.
boom, dust.
Yeah, or they
you know?
turn into dust. That would be so
Yeah,
dark. I love that. I'm so into
it's
that.
like it's the futility of it all, right? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm into. Yeah,
That's definitely kind of like, oh, it's so doomsday, feeling too.
I'm glad my next one's
absolutely.
uplifting.
I'm
Really?
glad.
Please go on, Christopher. Tell us about your uplifting journey.
It's not
About
an
never
uplifting
stopping
journey.
believing. Go ahead.
I had a loose idea for two, but one of them is definitely more happier, and I think I'll do that just to counter that sadness. And
Uh-huh.
I was going to do it as cyberpunk with pets. As far as
Oh,
people making intelligent pets, where just imagine like your cat has like a cybernetic brain that brings it up to like the intelligence of an 8-year-old.
oh, that would be fun. I could even
Yeah,
picture
Okay.
like a pet store being a factor here, like being the
O-
center of the story.
correct. But also, what if you did it as the players are the pets?
Oh, okay. We're
Yeah, I
taking
got
it to
the.
Furry Town.
No, no.
Yeah, see, this is where my brain immediately goes. It's like you're trying to be uplifting, but there's all sorts of dark consequences here that I don't think you're aware of.
I'm
Like,
aware, and I don't want you to say them. It's not a kill shelter.
okay, you are aware that cyberpunk is innately like kind of scummy and awful, right? Like that's where it starts and
Oh
ends.
yeah, I know. And it's all about like, what if? Just imagine getting this like purebred cat. It has the
Mhm.
intelligent like. It's even worse in a cyberpunk setting where they would be like, "Oh yeah, this is a kill shelter," but they have the intelligence of an 8-year-old. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
whatever.
liked you could do lost pets too, like where you could have a child who's a protagonist and he's trying to find his lost pet, and it's like you're trying to find it in this horrific cyberpunk life landscape.
Hmm.
So actually, the other thing that I was thinking, have you ever read the graphic novel We Three?
Mm-mm.
Okay. In some real quick summary, it's basically three animals that are given cybernetic enhancements and
Oh,
what they are in their journey. But honestly, what you're talking about, Chris, I mean, it's already been proven that cats and dogs have intelligence of like the equivalent of like a 3 to 6 year old child. So I
hmm
think all you would really need to do for the most part is just give them the ability to vocalize things, right? Like we already look at our pets and we're like, "Oh my god, that cat is so smart." And then, if we can only vocalize what they're saying, I think that's really all you need in terms of
Hmm.
cybernetics with animals, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I
looking
give
at
them
We
some
Three now.
mobility too.
And obviously, like, or actually maybe not so obviously, is this something that's so ubiquitous that even poor people can have cybernetic pets? How does that work exactly?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that like the base, like this is think of animal testing and how often things will be done on that first. So, in order to see the long-term side effects of anything, cybernetics were probably used on animals first, just to
Yes,
test
that
it out.
makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I recently finished Moxieland by Lauren Bukes,
Hmm
and something like that happens where they essentially test nanotechnology on dogs and make like nano dogs for a while before they move into the human testing phase.
Hmm.
So yeah, I can absolutely see that.
The other thing that I see being good for is just as companions to a story. Like, say
Mhm.
that there's a guy who is biologically pure and doesn't want to get cybernetics, but he has a pet and he sees no qualms in upgrading them because what if he did get them to the point of where they could vocalize and it's just like, hey, we need more food, so could you, I don't know, invest in giving me something that could pick locks?
Or maybe it's just a Swiss Army dog.
Yes.
Oh, that's even I love that. Oh my
With
god.
Rush.
Man's
It's
best
it's
friend there.
Yeah, it's not just Rush. Oh my god, no, you're right. It's Rush from the Mega Man cartoon is
Yes.
what it is. Oh, that's terrible. That's awful in so
But
many
what's
ways.
great about the pets thing though is like usually we use the pets as companions to talk about human qualities without having to like use the humans directly. So I think it's a great way to like tell stories where you're not being so direct about the theme of the story because you can use the pets, almost like a metaphor, um, because they're so close to humans.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to use, even in the example that we're giving, right? Like you can make that story about class where
Hmm
it's this pure, like or this no bionic part in him and then his Swiss Army dog, and that is
Yeah,
very clearly about class because he's rich and the dog which represents poor people, because he's
Hmm.
purely cybernetic at this point.
exactly. Yeah.
Like that's not necessarily an obvious statement, but it's a statement that could be made for sure.
Yeah, and then we accept it because we relate to pets, like they've been with humans since humans were humans. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes for an interesting point, right? Like
Mhm.
what does this mean overall?
for pets, because they're going to evolve just like we will once the cyberpunk future gets to us, if it's not
I
already
mean,
here, you know.
I mean, realistically, they're going to evolve before us because we're going to put that
Exactly.
shit on them.
Well,
Yeah.
we're
And
gonna
actually,
breed them
okay,
till they do it.
okay, okay, hold on, because I just realized that we're talking like when we think of pets, we're thinking of like dogs and cats, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, in the cyberpunk future, it's not just going to be that. You know that there's going to be that
Oh,
weird guy who has like a slinky ferret, or
I
like,
love that.
oh my god,
A
hold
slinky
on,
ferret.
no, stop, because I need to talk about what Tiger King looks like in the
Oh,
cyberpunk future.
yes. We have to make Tiger Punks. Okay, can we spend the next 25 minutes?
So I know I said that this was going to be the final part, but we're going to have an entire.
Bonus
No, we can fit it.
episode.
We can fit it. We can fit it in. Okay,
Cyber
let's talk
King.
What about
about.
Saf, who has like the arm that's missing? Like she could totally, she's already
Oh my
cyberpunk.
god!
Like,
Oh my god! Oh my god! This is what quarantine does to your brain. Holy
yes.
shit!
See,
And
That's
this
amazing.
oh my god, a lot of them are missing limbs. Like it's perfect already.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my, and you can have like cyber animals of. Oh my god, this is amazing. This is fucking incredible.
Cyber
Yeah, no,
tigers.
well, one
yeah,
person just turned their pet tiger into a motorcycle.
Yes, tiger
yeah,
cycles.
yes. Oh my god, this is the dumbest shit
Did
I've
you
ever
ever
heard.
read, no wait, what was it called, all the
Zoids.
futuristic violence in fancy suits? There were tiger cycles
Yes,
in that book, and it
yes.
was amazing.
Oh
I
my
actually
god.
I read that book. I was very disappointed in because I love part
What's his name?
I
Yeah,
his real name is
yeah.
Justin Pargin. I can't
His fake
remember his.
name's David Wong. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. I love John dies at the end,
Mhm.
and this book is full of spiders. Don't read
Yeah,
it.
yeah. This one
But
definitely drags on, and it's like
yeah,
unnecessarily long, but it still has moments like the tiger cycles.
I think I
Oh
read to the
god.
point where like there's this guy who has like electricity coming out of him and he's dangling in baby doll
So
heads, and I'm
ridiculous.
like, I'm good. Like I'm tapping out.
I had to power through it because I'm like, this is so insane. I can't
Yes.
stop.
Have you read his other stuff though?
I haven't read I read part like the very beginning of the very first one, which was really wacky, but it's amazing. I
Yeah.
haven't read
So
his other ones, yeah.
for some reason, I have a higher tolerance for wacky bullshit
Hmm.
in horror than I do for sci-fi.
Yeah,
For
because it
some
was
reason,
like
like
so over the top sci-fi in this.
yeah, I think over the top is fine when it
Yeah.
comes to that. Okay, I was gonna do mine, but now we do. I do want to spend a little bit more time on Cyber Tiger King because that is so fucking
We just
ridiculous. Like,
renamed the episode, in fact, the whole podcast.
yeah, exactly. Well, actually,
Cyber
we
Tiger
really
King.
shouldn't. Yeah,
God, there's
um,
already like there's so many hooks there.
You
there
just
really
take the
are.
exact plot from the documentary. You have a
Yeah.
murder mystery, you have criminal organizations, you
Yes.
got smuggling, you have technically heist. Uh,
Yes.
Illegal animal activity. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, fuck it. Why not throw Tiger King into that, right?
Why don't
I,
we? Oh, okay. Why don't we take each of our story hooks and recast it in Tiger King?
oh my god.
Well, I mean, no. but
Carol
but
Baskins
okay.
is an
Carol.
AI.
Oh goddamn, Carol Baskin.
Okay, no, hold on. We can do this. Let's fucking do this.
Yeah.
All right. The meat market is in charge of not just humans and finding the best bionic humans, but
Yeah.
also breeding animals for these kind of, like awful, you know, cyber
Big
tigers
cat
and
people.
everything like that.
They capture people too to transform them into super tigers. Like they mix and match. It's like chimera stuff. They like do really
Oh,
fucked up stuff. Yeah.
or it's like, oh, we need specific cybernetic parts for them, and
Yeah.
rather than manufacture them, it's like, oh, we have to pull them from living people, like that type of
Hmm.
shit.
That's what. Yeah. So
Okay.
they want like some super
I just
hearts. They
wanted
like
cute
take poor
cyber
human hearts.
pets. I want to
Yeah,
go
no,
on
fuck your
record.
cyber pets. We're doing Tiger King now. Come on.
Tiger King. Oh, so
But
meat
and not
market
only
is like
okay,
super breeders. Okay.
you know what's crazy to me is that like in like 5 to 10 years, there's going to be like RPG games and stories
Yes.
where people who have no idea what Tiger King is
Mhm.
are going to be like, wait a minute, this is crazy. I don't know. in this RPG, it's a little bit far fetched. I mean, these characters don't make any sense, and it's like, oh,
I need
and
to
then
get
it's
on
like, what do
that
you mean
like
this is ripped
today.
straight? Yeah, it's like ripped straight from the fucking headline. It's like, no, this shit is fucking crazy.
We need to produce
Ah,
that TRPG before someone else does, like right now.
Oh, in the beginning of Tiger King, remember that guy who released all of his damn pets?
Oh yeah, that crazy guy. Yeah, 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 in the
Like
backyard.
that is a plot hook in itself. You could just
That
have a
starts
bunch
it.
of cybernetic animals escape
Hmm.
and start terrorizing.
And you're
Well,
figuring it out. Yeah.
yeah, that story is actually way more tragic than it lets
yeah.
on.
I mean, what about the my favorite guy in that show is the weird videographer who's got like this bizarre like Western, what is it called? The detective show?
Twang? No.
No, no.
No,
What's the detective show with McConaughey? Um
oh, I know
True De-
exactly what you're talking
he's
about.
got like
True
a True
Detective.
Detective vibe. Like he's this creepy the videographer guy with the hat who
Yeah,
they
no,
burned
yeah.
down his studio. Yeah, like he would be a great like Western character when you're talking about crossing genres, to have
Hey,
the cyberpunk.
speaking
He's like the old man in the
of
dude.
crossing genres,
Yeah, yeah.
speaking of it's funny you mentioned westerns because my other idea is
Mhm.
actually doing a western.
Do it. Tell
Because
us about that.
because I was thinking about the idea of like westerns in the old days are cowboys and lawlessness and shit like
Mhm.
that, right? What how does that work, right? Like when you look at how westerns are done now, like you look at The Mandalorian, which is straight up a western. Like it
Yeah,
is, and don't
it's
get me
like
wrong, it takes from a great tradition of westerns because that's what Star Wars was built on. That and stealing directly from Akira Kurosawa. Um, but yeah, but I was thinking western in the sense of, well, we're talking about frontier, we're talking about lawlessness. Why not go to the storm chasers and not necessarily the pirate aspect of it, although you could do that, you could have them be the antagonists, right? I was thinking more of just like the guy who's trying to do his job protecting the mainland from these massive superstorms and stuff like that.
oh, I love so like he's like a twister chaser basically.
Right, but or even doing something along the lines of a lawman who's just who's trying to track down a person, and this is the backdrop. Like this is like, like the oceans of plastic, the
Mhm.
superstorms, those are all like dressing to the very personal story of him seeking out vengeance and trying to track down a single person and bring them to justice. That type of
I
thing.
love that as a character because character studies like that like are super fun because you can get really deep into what he's all about and the
Absolutely.
person
And
he's
so
hunting.
right. And so my question to you guys becomes, you use these backgrounds as metaphors and everything like that. What do you think the best way to integrate Land of a Thousand Mods would be into this type of story?
What do we know about this the person he's trying to get vengeance on?
Oh, you know what we could do?
Hmm.
No, no, I hate this. I hate this idea.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say it, but I hate it.
Okay, good.
Uh, have you have you ever read Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy?
No.
Okay.
I think so.
The, imagine okay, Cormac, it's first of
This is the
all,
guy
it's
who
one
wrote
of
The Road, right?
yes.
No. What?
It it is. Yeah, it's the same guy.
Oh
It's
my
one of my
god.
favorite books of all time,
Uh-huh.
and it took me 3 tries to get through it. And each try I got through it, and every time, like the first 2 times I just stopped. I'm like, fuck this book. I can't do it. On the third attempt, I hate fucked that book.
Uh-huh.
Read it all the way through, and I closed it, and I'm like, I'm finally fucking done with that book. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wait. I think that's my favorite book now. I think it's somehow one of my favorite books. And it's like this weird, like experiential thing where you
Uh-huh.
just read it and you're like, what the fuck happened to me? And that is part of what makes it so evocative and so good, is that you experience a lot of that transformation yourself. And he does that through the text, which I think is so brilliant. But this isn't Lit Corner. We're talking about Cyberpunk.
Uh-huh.
So my whole transition into that becomes, this is a character who basically gets involved with a group of men who go out and commit a bunch of atrocities in the name of the US government.
Mhm.
Not that that's ever happened before. Uh, but essentially he goes across the Mexican border and becomes an outlaw, but also kind of not an outlaw. And then it's there's actually a brilliant little tweet quote that I read about it one time, which is regeneration through violence.
Mhm.
And I want to make that a theme of what we're talking about here, right?
Oh, okay.
Where
So maybe if what he's doing is in a sense reparations for his own soul. Like if he's going, if he's, I like the phrase regeneration through violence. Like this character's journey now, as he patrols the edges where the storms are, is to find the people who created him, to turn him into this monster. So like the people he worked with, and making amends, like bringing them to justice, one at a time.
right, like the only way that he can redeem himself in any
Hmm.
way is to commit horrible acts of violence on those who created him in a
Right.
way.
It's his
Yeah.
final, it's like putting to rest the thing that started it all. Once he kills that last person, there'll be nothing left of him and he'll die. But he knows that.
Right. And then but in spoilers for one of the best books of all time,
Mhm.
but in Blood Meridian, the whole idea is that it's a cycle that never ends. And in the book, you guys aren't going to read it, are you?
No, you
Yeah,
can
go ahead.
spoil it. I mean, I may
Okay.
read it someday, but that's okay if you spoil it.
I'll spoil it for you. It's
Yeah.
fine. But in the book, what ends up happening is that the antagonist, who's known as the judge, is the one
Mhm.
who wins, and that it's more of an indication that the cycle of violence will continue forevermore.
Okay. So if you want a cycle of violence to continue, I'm thinking like Kill Bill, like when she goes after the assassins who like ruined her life, she kills one of the ones she kills as a child, which then kind of sets up the idea that revenge only begets more of it. So it's possible that when he finally achieves whatever he sets out to achieve, like he eliminates the last guy, like he's set in motion, someone who's inspired to do what he did, which only starts it all over again.
See, I like the idea that actually that's hold on, let me start that.
Wait.
I really like that because it says a lot about revenge, right? Like when you think
Mhm.
about the major revenge stories, you think of stuff like Moby Dick, and you think of stuff like, hey, Kill Bill is absolutely a great revenge story, or something like Old Boy, right? Where
Yeah.
that cycle is always continues on forever. I, but there's also something where it's like, well, is that the point? Like, where that's, I don't know.
It's
I
not
don't know,
enough.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like it's not enough for me that it's just a continuous cycle of hatred and violence, right?
Mhm.
Maybe maybe in this story, this is the only way that it can end is through violence, right? Like
Well,
how does that work exactly?
is there a way to tie the aspect of the environment and its violence to the whole story? Like you
That's
said that, yeah,
that's actually what I was hoping to get at, is that because you're looking at these superstorms, right? Like
right.
the raging storms are a great metaphor for the inherent violence within the person that we're talking about here.
Do
You know,
we
like
literally want to tie them together? Is that the goal?
I don't think physically tying them together. I think
Mm.
that metaphorically tying them together would make a little bit of sense. And I think perhaps at the end, having them destroyed by a raging superstorm, or
Uh-huh.
maybe tracking this person down to the edges of a superstorm,
Oh, and they perish in the superstorm.
something like that,
That would
where
be
it's
kind
like,
of poetic. Yeah.
yeah, or even something along the lines of they track them down to the edge of a superstorm, and then they're gonna die anyway, and it really
Mhm.
didn't matter in the beginning, because they were gonna die in the superstorm. But the fact that they got to this person and killed them and got their revenge, that's what mattered to them.
Yeah, maybe
But you
he
look at
takes
it,
him out during the storm, and the storm takes them both.
right, but it's like, oh, I got to twist the knife right before the storm got you. Like it
Right.
shows
Mm.
the futility of it all more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
All right, all right. So obviously, I think that's gonna wrap it. I think that we're at a good stopping point for now. And the
In
obvious
futility,
MVP,
in futile
yeah,
storms, that's where we head.
of course, yeah. But I think we do have to recognize that the MVP for this particular episode is definitely going to be Cyber Tiger King. Uh,
Yes.
we do I do want to give special shout outs to that idea because
God
man,
damn it,
it just
Carol
works.
Baskin.
I know.
Fucking Carol Baskin.
Yep.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Innocent until proven guilty.
I mean, yeah, I would actually agree with that. And like, it's not like her husband was a good person to begin with. Like, he did scoop her up off the side of the road. You know, it's
That
not like
god,
he's at all
goddamn,
predatory.
And he was
goddamn Carol
looking to
Baskin.
disappear or do something shady right before all of that happened.
Yeah. All right.
Spoilers.
Anyway, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. We really hope that you enjoyed our little dalliance into the land of 1,000 mods. We're going to be doing series like this, kind of shorter, sweeter episodes more often, and this is going to be kind of the format going forward. So what we're going to need from you all is prompts and ideas similar to the one that we've kind of gone through here. And if you want to send those to us, please do so by emailing us at worldbuildwithus@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and send us a tweet or a DM at Let's Worldbuild. And all of those links are going to be in the show notes and stuff like that, as per usual. And I've been Rob Hilferty here with Daniel Quinn and Chris Prunty. We love you very much, and we hope you have a great week.